The midday sun beat down on the construction site. Dust swirled around the heavy machinery. Antonio surveyed the scene with a critical eye. His son, Marco, stood beside him, fiddling with his smartphone. Antonio, a man who built his life from the ground up, felt a familiar pang of disappointment. Marco, more interested in spreadsheets and algorithms, seemed to have little affection for the family business. Antonio had poured his lifeblood into this company. Calloused hands and a tireless work ethic had transformed a small operation into a respected firm. He dreamed of passing it on to Marco. He longed to see his son continue the legacy. But Marco, with his freshly minted MBA, harbored different ambitions. He saw his father's world as antiquated, inefficient. He yearned for the perceived glamour of tech startups, for the allure of quick riches. The tension between father and son simmered beneath the surface. Antonio craved a partner, someone to share the load, someone to inherit his passion. Marco, however, saw only limitations, a future tethered to the dust and grime of his father's world. He craved autonomy, the freedom to build his own empire. The gulf between them, invisible to the naked eye, was as vast as the chasm between their dreams. Marco's opportunity arrived, disguised as a lucrative government contract. He saw it as his ticket out, a chance to prove his father wrong. He approached Antonio with an air of unearned confidence. "I've got this," he declared, his voice laced with arrogance. "I can get it done for half the cost, twice the speed." Antonio, weathered by years of experience, saw the recklessness in his son's eyes. He tried to warn him, to explain the intricacies of dealing with bureaucracy. Marco wouldn't listen. He saw his father's advice as a lack of faith. He was convinced that his modern methods, his algorithms and software would make him successful. He left the company, taking his inheritance with him, leaving behind a legacy of hurt and resentment. Antonio watched him go, his heart heavy with a father's disappointment. The initial excitement of independence soon gave way to the harsh realities of the business world. Marco, blinded by his own ambition, had overestimated his abilities. The government contract, riddled with unforeseen complexities and bureaucratic hurdles, became his albatross. Costs spiraled, deadlines were missed. His carefully crafted spreadsheets, once his pride, now mocked him with their inaccurate projections. Alone and drowning in debt, Marco began to grasp the true cost of his arrogance. His sleek office, once a symbol of success, now felt like a cage. The weight of his failure pressed down on him. He had alienated his father, squandered his inheritance, and destroyed his own dreams. One cold evening, huddled in his desolate office, Marco stumbled upon a photo. It showed him and his father side by side, beaming with pride at the completion of a particularly challenging project. In that moment, the memory of his father's words, once dismissed as outdated, echoed in his ears. He saw the wisdom in his father's calloused hands, the love in his father's tired eyes. Shame washed over him, cold and unforgiving. For the first time, Marco allowed himself to confront the true extent of his folly. He realized that his arrogance had blinded him to the value of experience, to the importance of humility. His father's legacy, built on hard work and integrity, now seemed like an unreachable summit. Desperation gnawed at him. He had lost everything, and now forced to take a low-paying job at a pig's farm. He could hardly get enough to feed himself. He even begged from strangers. He knew what he had to do: swallow his pride, go back to his father and ask for forgiveness. The walk back to his father's construction site was the longest of Marco's life. Each step was a testament to his fall from grace, a reminder of the bridges he had burned. He found his father in his usual spot, supervising the construction of a new apartment complex. Time seemed to stand still as Marco approached his father. "I was wrong," Marco choked out, his voice barely a whisper. "I need your help." Antonio looked at his son, his face etched with a mixture of disappointment and relief. He saw the arrogance gone, replaced by a newfound humility. In that instant, forgiveness flowed freely.
He embraced his son, the prodigal son who had finally returned home. God waits for us to realize our mistakes, and when we ask for forgiveness, He welcomes us back.